Paul Florack is with us. He's the Chief Product Officer for Transaction Network. And good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fine. The coalition is working to better understand the role of technology in carriers and industry in finding the best solution for reducing unwanted robocalls. And I will tell you, you have a tremendous fan base out there who hopes you are successful. So where are we now with this?
Well, where we are now is that the carriers across the U.S. are looking to implement a technology that would allow them to authenticate a call's origination point. Mm-hmm. When that call terminates, to the end user, they will be able to verify that it came from the network that it was supposed to, and that will allow us to better detect when calls are being spoofed or not spoofed, which is one of the biggest uses of illegal robocalling is spoofing the telephone number, and so this will go a long way to address that.
I heard some numbers on this, Paul, earlier about how many robocalls are done, and I think a lot of people don't understand. First of all, they say, why in the world would these people put that type of money and effort in the literally tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, and it may even be more than that. And you have to try to sit down and select a pigeon drop. If you try it enough times, even if you get one out of 5,000 or whatever it happens to be to listen to you, then it's worth it to them because most of the stuff is automated until they get a sucker on the line. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct. And the advancement of Internet protocol technologies has made it really, really cheap for people to place outbound phone calls. So the barrier that used to be there in the past, which is, it was expensive to make long-distance calls. With Internet protocol technologies and spoofing technologies, it's no longer very expensive to do that.
Well, every time we find one type of things to stop them, it seems like they figure that out, and 15 days later, they've got something else. What makes you think this new stuff or new approach is going to work?
Well, this new approach is one part of a layered approach the operators are implementing. So in addition to technology that will detect when calls are being spoofed, the operators are implementing analytics systems and have implemented those types of systems to detect negative robocall activity and be able to flag those calls for users. And so that technology, just like any other type of spam filtering, will consistently undergo changes as the bad guys change their approach to trying to work around the system.
Yeah. By the way, I did want to mention that our AG, Jim Hood, had joined the coalition of about 39 attorneys general in seeking to combat illegal robocalls. The coalition will work to better understand the role of technology, et cetera, et cetera. But that being said, I have to ask you this question. Have you heard how they have been able to, or can they do this? There were a couple of times my wife got a message, left a message to call of the number call, but it didn't ring. Have you ever heard of that technology where they don't ring? It's just it goes immediately to the voicemail. Call me.
Yeah, that's one of the approaches that the bad guys have used. Ringless voicemail.
Ringless voicemail. So it is a thing.
Yes, it is. And like I said, but they will continue to find ways to work around platforms and systems. So that's why carriers have to make a pretty significant investment both in analytic systems to be able to detect when this stuff is going on and technologies that will allow us to flag the calls when they are being spoofed.
Paul, most of these coming from overseas, do we know?
Yeah, a lot of the call centers are overseas, and so they enter the network through these Internet protocol gateways, and so it's very difficult to determine where trace that call all the way back to the international carrier call center that actually originated the call. Mm-hmm. And some of the technologies that the operators are implementing, you'll hear the term stir shaken. And STIR is the protocol, and SHAKEN is the framework that allows us to not only authenticate where the call came from, but enable traceback.
You would think if you, and I've always done this, especially on cell phones now, if the number doesn't come up identified, because just about anybody we want to talk to immediately is going to be identified, and they haven't been able to broach that for the most part yet. But if the message is any credibility to it, they will leave a voice message. But a lot of times these computers, if you don't pick up immediately, they go on and cut off, and if you block a number, they'll change the number.
Right, and that's sometimes referred to as snowshoe spam. We've seen it on the internet where you just keep changing the identity of where you're originating from, so that they can get around these types of blocking services. And so that's one of the techs that they use, and that's where they spoof the telephone numbers they're using. And so that's where this spoofing technology will allow us to detect when they're doing that.
How did we, as Mississippi, finished last year as far as robocall volumes? Do you know?
We saw, about 11 to 12% of the calls that terminated into Mississippi were deemed to be negative robocalling, and look, there's a science involved between separating the negative robocalls to the ones that are legit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we see is the negative robocalls were about 11 to 12% of all the calls terminating in Mississippi.
What does that work out to be? Do we have a number on those?
I don't have a total number in Mississippi itself, but it's hundreds of millions of phone calls, nationally.
Is there some type of time, a period that we can expect this at the beginning of the middle of the year, end of the year, as far as new technology?
Yeah, because a lot of carriers have implemented what I'll call, pre-shaken capabilities, where they have solutions that you can subscribe to now that will do a really decent job of detecting the negative calls and warning you when there's a scam call. But the spoofing technology I talked about, which takes that one step further, it will be implemented throughout 2019. Most of the major operators are deploying the first of that in the first quarter of 2019, and then you'll see it deployed throughout the rest of 2019, where the real impact you won't see, I think, until the end of 2019, because this has to be deployed ubiquitously for it to be really effective, because the bad guys will just work around the networks that have deployed it.
Well, it's frustrated everybody, even the lawmakers, and certainly even people with the Public Service Commission. Some of them, all of them, have been on the air with me, and sometimes they get more calls than the average citizen, which is it's pretty bad. Paul Florack, thank you, man. Appreciate it very much, and I thank you for taking some time to join us.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Paul Florack, Chief Product Officer, Transaction Network Services. Dixon, not next, but right after that. Give us a loud idea of what's going on as far as sports for this weekend. And what else? What's coming up here? Hang on. I got it. Or do I have it? Oh, yeah. I got a couple of great stories here. Don't go anywhere. Coming up.